Hi, it's Michael Guest here from Real Action. Now, making a fishing TV program means filming in all sorts of conditions. Myself and the crew are always on the go. We need engines that tick all the boxes. I love my Evinrudes. They give me everything I need in an outboard. Incredible fuel efficiency, awesome reliability, and amazing torque. But don't just take my word for it. Listen in to what these guys have to say.
I've been running Evinrude G1 motors for around a decade. I've put thousands of hours on them. I also have run 500 hours on a G2 recently. The motors have been so reliable. They've been second to none for me. Commercially it makes sense because the servicing costs are much less and the fuel economy is so good. And then to top it off, the performance on the boat is fantastic. And I'm in and out of gear all day chasing pelagic fish, so I'm so glad I've got these gearboxes because they've never let me down.
Yeah, we run them 7-8 hours a day. Every day, 7 days a week when it's season time, and their reliability is second to none in our opinion. Punish the motors in the fact that we continually work them. They don't get a break. They're well maintained, looked after, and the reliability for 12 months is second to none. And would recommend anyone, and do so on a regular basis, to people to buy an E-Tec over any other brand of outboard. Far superior in performance, takeoff, top end speed, fuel consumption, servicing costs, the whole works. They're probably an overall the best motor on the market in my opinion.
I did a lot of homework on what was available in the marketplace, and I had two criteria. I needed the torque to get this boat out of the water, because at times with the 250 4-stroke I couldn't even get it on the plane. It had that much gear on board. And I was looking for fuel economy, and this thing is delivered in spades on both of those.
I've compared 2-strokes to 4-strokes. I just believe the most important thing, especially if you guys fish offshore, is you need that power out of the hull. Not all boats are designed to plane quite quickly, but I believe you have a 2-stroke on the back, an E-Tec, it's a lot more quicker out of the hull. When you get that wave breaking in front of you, or you come back in and run out tide, the waves are standing up and they drop away, you need the power to be able to pull away from that wave behind you. And you don't have the time for a 4-stroke motor to wind out. You need to get straight into it and straight out of it. And that's what I like about them.
2-strokes is instant power. 4-strokes got to wind up. When we're working shallow water, we need out and gone. It's time covered area. We need as much time as we can. Because time and tide don't wait for you.
Yes, I've used quite a few different motors, 2-strokes and 4-strokes over the years that I've been running the business. I'm really blown away by the power and the torque coming out of the Evinrude. The boat is a different boat these days. It rides completely different.
The difference in torque in the 2-stroke, the power is just amazing. I've never ever felt like there's been too much weight on the boat. And then the fuel consumption, I was expecting better, but I've been just gobsmacked. I've gone from a cruising speed of around 50 kilometres an hour using 72 litres with a 4-stroke to using 45 litres and 42 litres with this, depending on the load. It's almost double the range of the boat. You know, I do a lot of big miles. The run of the reef and back can be 160, 180 kilometres and back. The difference in fuel burn has just blown me away. I can't believe it.
Since buying the Evinrude Etec, the running in procedure has been very simple. Basically, I just carry on as I normally would. We just have fun in the boat with the kids. Whenever I feel like giving it wide open throttle, I do, and that's as per the manufacturer's standards. So you don't really have to do anything special to run in the engine. It's fairly simple.
Yes, it's 2-stroke technology, but it's nothing like the 2-stroke technology we grew up with as kids. You don't see the smoke pouring out the back. There's no coughing and spluttering at the ramp on a cold winter's morning with smoke pouring out the back of your motor. They are incredibly clean. I think we can all feel good about that. At the end of the day, we do care about where we live and what we do, and you like to think you're not creating harm when you're running around on your outboards. These things seem to burn beautifully lean, beautifully clean. There's no smoke, there's no oil residue on the water. You can feel good about running the motors environmentally. You're burning a lot less fossil fuels, I've got to tell you. You're using a lot less petrol when you run one of these, and anyone with a 4-stroke should try one of these. Find a mate with one, get in one. You just won't believe the difference in torque, in performance, in just the raw power and speed, and when you get back to the boat ramp you won't believe the difference in fuel consumption. That's been the biggest single issue for me. Is just I was expecting better, but I couldn't believe it would be this much better, and I'm running 50 more horsepower than I used to run as well. Just phenomenal.
In the late 2000s I did look at swapping to a 4-stroke. Did all the costings in place for me for a 12-month period and worked out that I'd be $4,500 worse off over a 12-month period to owning a 4-stroke to a 2-stroke E-Tec. If you count in the servicing costs that the 4-stroke required, the intervals they required, the initial purchase price and everything else, it worked out $4,500 better for me for the 12 months to own an E-Tec.
So for anybody in the market looking for a new outboard, I highly recommend the Evinrude Etec. It's an awesome motor. It's straight out of the box, goes onto your boat, and you're basically straight out there and into boating.
With the power and the fuel economy now, I can spend more time on the water fishing and enjoying what I love.
It's exceeded expectations. It's a really, really fun, torquey engine, and it's terrific. There's nothing better than looking back at the kids on the tubes and framing them and seeing that engine that's driving all the fun.
So what would I change about this? I reckon I'd have 2 of them on the back, except they won't fit. How would this thing be with 700 horsepower hanging off it? No, look, again, the motor is what the motor is. It's a motor that's easy to flush, easy to look after, cheap to run, incredible power, a burn performance band that's enormous, which is really what I found that probably the most unusual feature is you get the same kilometres per litre at 50 k's as you do at nearly 70 k's, and that's just amazing. So it means I'm travelling faster using the same amount of fuel per litre. Yeah, it's a heck of a thing. Again, all I can say is nobody should buy a new 4-stroke without trying one of these. That would be my simple message. Have a go, try one of these against any 4-stroke that I've ever had, and I've had most of them, and you just think it's from another planet.
As you can see, guys, you can have the best of everything with an Evinrude, including best torque, best fuel economy, lowest emissions and lowest maintenance costs. That's why I choose an Evinrude Etec. For more information, make sure you head to Evinrude Australia on Facebook, visit evinrude.com.au or call in and see your local Evinrude dealer.
I like my Evinrude Etec because it's got excellent fuel economy, very low maintenance, emission levels are above standard, and the reliability. With old mate Saltwater Croc out the back here, I don't want to get caught in a river at night, I want to get home safely. Evinrude Etec does it for me every time.
Hey, I'm Jason Drager from Evinrude Australia, and I'm here today to explain to you the difference between the conventional 2-stroke outboard versus today's new style direct-injected Evinrude engine, and explain to you why our engines will meet and exceed the new emission laws set to be introduced in this country soon. So here we have a Brand X conventional 2-stroke outboard engine. Up the front of the engine you'll see the carburetor. The carburetor controls the air-fuel mixture that this engine requires to run. There is nothing else to control it but the actual jet that is set in the carburetor, which allows the maximum amount of fuel required for this engine to keep it running. There is no other way to control this motor to reduce the emissions out of this engine at all. The air-fuel mixture then travels through the front of this engine, through the transfer ports, meeting the piston at the top of its cycle for combustion. Unfortunately, during this process, there's a time and place where the exhaust port and the intake ports are both open together. This is better known as scavenging, and the clean charge coming through this engine is exiting the motor at the same time, this increasing our hydrocarbon and carbon monoxide levels. Unfortunately, that is the characteristic of this engine. It has been this way for many, many years now. This is why it is the conventional two-stroke outboard engine. Now let me show you over the new Evinrude Direct-Injected two-stroke outboard. So this is our two-cylinder direct-injected Evinrude Etec, which we base our 25 and 30 horsepower engine off. As you can see up the front of this engine, it's totally different to the conventional two-stroke. What we have here are what we refer to as the throttle body. So the throttle body, via the airbox, controls the air that's coming through this engine. We then have an EMM up the top of this engine, which is the brain for this motor. It basically tells this engine what to do. It sends a message from the EMM out to the rest of the sensors around this motor, giving it the precise injection of fuel and oil it requires to control the emissions. As I mentioned, our air comes in through the front of the engine only. There is no fuel-air mixture at the front of this engine. Once our EMM has sent the signal out to the injector, as the injector already has fuel pressure behind it, our injector injects the fuel into the engine at the precise moment, meaning that our transfer port and exhaust ports are not open at the same time. This means we are not emitting any raw fuel, oil mixture out of the exhaust at any one time. So now I would like to show you the starting procedure and characteristics of each engine on a cold startup. But firstly, I want to show you that each engine has not been started here today. And what I'm going to do is point a thermal gun, and my assistant Sam here is going to help me, and we're going to show you the cylinder block temperature of each outboard engine. $29 degrees.
About 23 degrees.
So now I'd like to show you the cold starting procedure on a conventional two-stroke outboard. Firstly, I like to make sure the primer bulb is nice and firm. We pull the choke out and set the throttle to the idle position. You can see how smoky that engine is, and remember we are running this at 50 to 1. So now I'm going to get Sam to show you how easy it is to start the Evinrude Etec on its very first startup, cold start for the day. Over to you, Sam.
Here it is, as simple as just hitting the button. See, there's no smoke. Nice and quiet.